so excited to be here today. We were here close to a year ago, and I was able to share the extraordinary testimony with you. And so I'll share a little bit of the first year, a little bit that happened in case you weren't here or don't remember. Thank you. I got sick in July of 2007 with what I just thought was the flu and ended up in the hospital in Lynchburg, Virginia. And they ended up coming to the conclusion that I had an E. coli bacteria that had gotten in my bloodstream and caused me to go septic, which is where all of your organs shut down one by one. And they did find out that the strain of E. coli had come from my own body. It had just leaked from where it was supposed to be into my bloodstream. And so for the next 3 months, I was in the hospital. We were in 4 different hospitals, actually. We started in Lynchburg. I was airlifted to MCV in Richmond. Was in the ICU there for about 7 weeks. Was unconscious for a couple of weeks, and while I was unconscious, that's when the amputations had to be done. I'd had so much damage done to my feet and my toes and my legs because of the medications I had been on. My veins were constricted and had collapsed, so they had to amputate both legs above the knee. So when I woke up, I didn't know where I was or what had happened, what had gone on, and my husband, Josh, had to tell me day after day what had happened. And at the time, I just said, okay, I knew right from the beginning, I had a peace about it, that this was all in God's plan for our lives and that He had a purpose for all of this to happen. And I just kind of held on and went for the ride to see what would happen. And got moved to another hospital in Richmond for a few weeks and started rehab, and then moved back to Lynchburg, where we were from. And we have 2 boys, and they had been staying in Lynchburg with our families. And so when I came home from the hospital, it was different. Obviously, I couldn't take care of my kids and my husband the way that I had before. And so it was all a big process of lots of physical therapy and lots of hard work, and definitely times when I thought there's no way I couldn't imagine walking again. To me, being in the wheelchair, that was just the way it was going to be forever. And with a lot of prayer and a lot of help from family support and everybody, I slowly began that process. And when I was here a year ago, I was still in my wheelchair. I was starting to do walking a little bit, and then right after we were here, the end of September last year, I really took off with the walking. I got rid of my wheelchair. I still have it. It's in my basement, but I don't use it. I kind of had my Independence Day from it and didn't touch it again, and that was really when God just made it all happen. It all came together. Something clicked in my mind, and I could see myself walking. I could envision it. And the light came at the end of the tunnel, finally, for me. Everyone around me had been saying, you're going to walk, you can do it, you're going to walk. But for me, I hadn't been able to see it until that point. So also at that same time, I had been on a lot of pain medications for over a year, and they decided to stop that as well. And so at that point, the bottom kind of fell out for me emotionally and mentally. I guess it had kind of been surreal for the whole first year that it had happened, and it was almost like living in a dream. I had been sick for so long that I didn't ever really think I would be well. I just kind of thought I would be sick forever. And so when all of that happened, I really went into a pretty deep depression stage, and I had to stop traveling around. We had been going to different churches in the areas, and I just had to stop everything for probably 4 or 5 months and just really focus on our family and getting stronger and getting back to where we needed to be. And spent a lot of time in prayer and just talking, and I had to come to the realization, in fact, that this was the way it was going to be. And I wasn't very happy about it at first. And it was extremely painful to walk on these prosthetic legs. And so it was all just building up tolerance to be able to handle the pain and to be okay mentally that you know you're going to be in pain for the rest of your life, but to know that God's there and He'll comfort you and He'll give you the strength and the endurance to get through it. And so I had been fighting my insurance all of last year, all of 2008, for these prosthetic legs that I have now, which are called C legs. It's the letter C legs, because they're computerized. They have a microprocessor chip in them that helps me swing them forward and kick and bend when I'm walking. So we had been fighting, and insurance had denied me over and over again, even though they'd given them out to 20,000 other people. They decided to pick me randomly to deny. So I was done with all of my appeals that I could do. The decision had been turned over from insurance to the commissioner of insurance, who's in Richmond, and he was going to make the decision. He could overrule insurance and tell them that they had to give them to me. So I had been calling and writing letters to his office, and I wasn't getting anywhere. They were rude with me, didn't want to help me. I had a feeling I wasn't going to get these legs. And so I contacted Good Morning America, sent them an email, and heard from a producer within 3 days that they wanted to do the story, they wanted to help with it. And once he started calling the commissioner every day, within 2 weeks or so, I had the letter in the mail saying that I was approved for the legs, and they had overruled it. And so that was just the power of God, obviously. You know, the people at the show thought that they had done it, but I knew ultimately God had used them to be the channel, to be the vessel to get the legs. So on November 12th last year, I got my sea legs, and it was a really big day because that whole year had been leading up to, you know, once you get them, you know, it's all going to be different. You're going to be able to bend. You're going to be able to go up and down stairs easier and all that. So when I got them, I was extremely nervous that I wasn't going to be able to do them. I'm getting a pair of $100,000 legs. What happens if I can't use them? You know, how bad is that going to be to have them and not be able to use them? But God had prepared me, like I said, just leading up to that day a couple of months before. He was really giving me the strength to power through and to walk and to get taller. When I was here last year, I was in the wheelchair, but the legs that I was working with last year were short. I was on the floor. I was shorter than our sons, and so I had to go up a few inches at a time every couple of weeks to get taller. And then after I got the sea legs, then it was like starting all over again with physical therapy and just learning how to walk a different way. It was another extremely trying time. We were at the time living with my husband's parents, and we got our own house in near Lynchburg. So we ended up moving the beginning of this year, and I still was just having trouble finding my niche for where God wanted me, what he wanted me to do with this. I knew he had a purpose and had a plan. I just didn't know which way he wanted me to go. So I was just praying for direction and just being consistent. And then middle of this year or so, I got an opportunity with the prosthetic company that I work with that makes my legs, that they wanted to hire me on as a patient advocate, to where I travel around the country with them, and I get to share my testimony with a room full of physical therapists that would normally not ever come to church or not ever hear it in that type of setting. And so God has just opened up such a big platform for me with that, and to be able to go and speak where, you know, they don't exactly know what they're getting when I come up there. But by the end, it's so neat afterwards to have fellow believers come up and say, you know, we were so touched, we're so excited that you're able to use this, because I'm allowed to make my own PowerPoint. I can put whatever I want to in it. I can say scripture. I can make it a full message. So God has opened up that. And just other minor things along the way. This past summer, we had an opportunity to go up to Ohio. Last year, I became a part of a ministry called CAST, which is Christian Amputee Support Team. And they have chapters in 3 different states. And we did this summer an amputee group type event, and where we did the water skiing with the adaptive equipment. They had people that had one leg gone, they could stand up and do skiing on one leg. And I did the sit ski, where it was just a little crate mounted on a ski. And so that was really fun. And, you know, I feel like now I don't have as much fear. I guess I kind of get myself into situations and don't get scared until I'm about to go out and do whatever I'm supposed to do. But I find that God gives me the bravery, the courage to go out there and do it, and things that I would have never done before, for sure.